Okay, good day all, and welcome to this section. So in our previous section, we started on the good clinical laboratory practice. We were able to differentiate between good clinical laboratory practice and good laboratory practice, and we also were able to relate how it relates to what we are doing. So this program is good clinical laboratory practice and powered by Pegasus Consultancy. And my name is Dr. Aliu Israel. I'm your host again today. So we're going to continue from where we stopped, and going starting from 5, standard for personal safety. So when we talk about standard for personal safety, the laboratory staff is paramount, and safety to the laboratory staff is paramount. So to avoid laboratory accidents that may jeopardize the processes, acquisition of infectious agents through handling of blood. As an example, although exposure cannot always be avoided when it comes to the lab, laboratory practice is the safety tools. And part of the safety tools or the safety management is the use of the safety equipment. Safety equipment. Safety equipment is key and vital when it comes to what safety management. Now, the following safety equipment must be in the lab to ensure the continued safety of the laboratory staff and the environment and any authorized individual who may enter the lab. We have things like the eye wash station that may be plumbed, attached to a sink, or stand alone. So the lab must have an eye wash station. Portable, it could be sealed or refilled bottles, emergency shower, drench nose, fire extinguisher, and all the fire alarm system. We include all the fire alarm system. We also have part of the fire extinguisher. You have the fire alarm system. You have the smoke detectors and sharp containers. All this has to be in place. Minimal. Those are the minimum, at least. Those minimal things have to be there. Eye wash stations, emergency showers or drench hose, fire extinguisher, fire system, sharp containers, personal protective equipment, and etc. Now, the laboratory must document this testing or inspection of the safety equipment. Now, some of those other safety equipment can even be first aid box. Some of all those other safety equipment could even be the biosafety cabinet in the lab. So these are part of the safety water equipment. The laboratory must document the testing and or inspection of the safety equipment. Document records to testing and inspection of the safety equipment must be signed and dated by the person performing the task. Record of inspection must be readily available. So you must look at all those things. Now, let's look at the PPE, what is known as the personal protective equipment. There are courses to run, which we call on safety management. You see a whole lot of details about what the safety management, but we know we are talking about the principles, and we're throwing some light on this part. So PPE must be provided to all lab staff. PPE include but not limited to, we have gloves, whether latex or non-latex, gowns for laboratory coats, resistant eye protection, goggle, face shield, engineering control, such as laminar flow. How many of us have seen a laminar flow hood before? Or a splash shield, mask. All these are what safety equipment, personal protective equipment. They will have things like, well, why do we call them personal protective? Because they help to protect the individual. Now we have material safety data sheet, MSDS. MSDS. We are reading about MSDS. So anytime you hear about MSDS safety, I'm talking about material safety data sheet. To ensure proper handling and storage, the laboratory must have MSDS or equivalent to the workplace for each hazardous chemical that is used. So all your MSDS for every chemical, you have to have for every hazardous chemical, you must have it, and you must file them. And it's expected that part of the good clinical laboratory practice is that you would have read the MSDS sheet. Example of a chemical that should be recorded on MSDS, should include bleach, disinfectant, etc. The laboratory must maintain each MSDS in their local language, that means your language, like for English now for Nigeria. Although the laboratory may maintain copies of other languages as well, but it's important that you have it in a way that is readable and understandable by your team. Laboratory personnel must be trained on reading what? MSDS. Are we communicating? The MSDS must be readily available to every employee. So it's not something that you should, just like we have SOP label, be readily available. Just like we have package inserts for reagent and other things. MSDS may be maintained electronically or long you can have them physically as hard copies. All MSDS should be updated periodically, maybe within 2 years period or as it may be, or as when there's an update for that MSDS. If there is a revision on the MSDS, then that new revision should be kept and should be read and understand by the personnel who are using such hazardous chemicals. Are we communicating? So there's what we call safety policy. We have policy, we have manuals, procedures, and process. We have SOPs. So we have safety policy, we have safety manuals, we have safety procedures, and we have safety logs. These are the ways to implement safety in any lab or in any organization. Now, what does the safety policy define the regulatory organization like international standard organization, occupational safety and health administration must be present in the lab. So you must have your safety policies. Now, some of these safety policies can be drawn from the ISO standards, can be drawn from OSHA, which is called the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. But you must have a safety policy within your lab. Apart from having a safety policy, you should have what? A safety manual. Apart from having a safety manual, you should have is SOP for your different world safety procedure. We are talking about the importance of SOPs in good clinical laboratory practice. You must have a standard operating procedures. Do you understand what I'm saying? Please, if you are hearing what I'm saying and you get what I'm saying, please type on the comment section safety training, safety training, safety training. Yes, I can hear anything. Yes. If you can hear what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying, please type on the comment section safety training. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So when we talk about safety training must be completed before any employee begins work in the laboratory on a regular basis thereafter. Ongoing safety training must take place each calendar year. Then you have to have a documentation of the training that must be signed. So how do you have proof of safety training? You could either use a training log to record it, or you can use what? A certificate, either a certificate or a training log. Any of them is a proof or an evidence of what the safety training that has been done. Okay, so move further. The safety training must include bloodborne pathogens, PPE, chemical hygiene, hazardous communication, use of safety equipment in the laboratory, use of cryogenic chemicals, ice, include nitrogen, transportation of potential infectious material, waste management, biohazard contaminants, and general safety. Local laws related to safety. All these things we discuss them broadly in our safety management course. Safety training must be documented and what must be maintained by every aspect. We have a course safety or orientation on safety. That's different. That is when you are doing onboarding for the staff, but it's what called detailed safety training. So this safety training must encompass these and many more as regards to what safety. Now, what we call safety incident reporting. So what is safety incident reporting? Now, what we are saying here is that when there's an incident and regards safety, it must be documented, must be submitted. You don't sweep it under the carpet. You document them. You review them. You check out for do you do a risk assessment to know the risk. That's before those safety issues happen. You can do a risk identification to know is it a low risk, medium risk, or high risk. There are chat box for using risk assessment. Now, safety reports must be incorporated into the quality management system program, allowing the laboratory to note trend and correct problems to prevent what reoccurrence. And one of the ways to do that is through what risk assessments. And that is one of the additions, one of the emphasis of the ISO 15189 2022 over the ISO 15189 2012, risk assessment and safety. Okay, let's look at some good clinical practice when it comes to safety management. Some good clinical laboratory practice in what safety management. Safety is core, is key. Now, I'm going to read that and make it in such a way as a note so that by the time you are going through them, it is easily what understandable. You can understand them, and even when you are reading them, even without somebody explaining it, you can understand. So, good clinical practice is a cornerstone for safe laboratory environment. Some areas of the good clinical laboratory practice include the following, but not limited to what we are going to be discussing tonight. So, number one among them, food, drinks, and like substances that provide potential hand-to-mouth contact are prohibited in the technical work areas. You don't put ice cream, soup, fish, meat pie in the fridge or within the technical work areas. That's why we have areas for eating, kitchens, and all those things. You take your food there, you eat it. It doesn't matter. Don't worry, it doesn't matter. It matters. It's what's prohibited. It's a non-conformance. If we come and we're checking your lab, for example, doing an audit and assessment, and if such is found, it's what's a non-conformance. Specimen containing a variety of pathogens handled daily in the technical work area and stored in the laboratory refrigerator provide a potential source of contamination of food and drink. Hope we know that part of good clinical laboratory practice is that you don't put a reagent and sample on the same fridge. If you hear that, please type it on the comment section. You don't put reagent and sample, patient samples on the same fridge. Why don't we do that? Because of our contamination. Those are the also we don't put lab things and food item. Are we communicating? Yes, thank you. So some of these things I'm saying may not necessarily be on the slide. That's why you have the audio, you have the video to be able to listen to them over and over again and get used to this practice. Now, and it's also interesting that you could also take specialization, you could also take further training, you could also be a safety expert. We have biosafety and biosecurity. That's the broader family of what we are discussing right away, biosafety and biosecurity. Do not store food or drink in technical refrigerator. Somebody here. Refrigerators reserved exclusively for food storage may be located in areas where eating and drinking are permitted. So if you want to have that, you can put it in your lounge or put it in somewhere else. Those fridge to put your food, to put your fruits, apples, and etc. there. The policy should be established to ensure that food and specimen are not stored in the same fridge. Smoking should be prohibited in technical work areas. Burning materials are potential source of ignition for flammable what? Solvent. The handling of smoking materials, whether they are cigarettes, whether they are cigars or pipes or from whatever you call it, from bench to mouth, or is a route to exposure to both microorganisms and what doesn't. So they are prohibited in the lab space. Okay. Yes, reagent and samples must not be kept in the same fridge. Thank you for recapping that. Okay, moving further. Part of the laboratory practice include application of cosmetics, makeups, foundation. Yeah, this applies to most of our ladies. In the technical work area, is prohibited. Use of hand creams, however, is allowed and recommended for employee performing frequent work hand washing. You could put a gel or a Vaseline or a baby gel. You could put it somewhere in the hand wash, where once you finish washing, you can apply it. That is allowed. But application of cosmetics in technical work area It's repeated. You don't do makeup. You don't, oh, we are running from the, I came late. Let me just quickly touch my face. No, 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 no. So to prevent it from contact with what? Contaminated materials or soft, and also to prevent shielding organisms into the work area, hair should be securely back, packed and off the shoulder. So you pack off your hair on the shoulder. It's also important to keep hair out of what? Moving equipment, such as centrifuge and microtome. Disposable covers are valuable word for hair. And we're communicating. These are part of good clinical laboratory practice when it comes to safety. Do not wear jewelry that can become caught in equipment or hang into infective material, like dangling earrings. You don't wear dangling earrings. Men with beard, the beard gang, should observe the same precaution provided for our hair. Long beard are dangerous because they can be caught in a moving equipment. All beard are source of bacterial contamination. So as I put in beard, the Piladin gangs. Disposable covers are available for beard. Beard can also present special problems with a respirator. Do not store personal belongings such as purse, cell phone, coffee mugs, food, or medication in the technical work area. I once handled a lab some years ago, about 10 years ago, and one of the principles I do, you don't bring your phone to the lab. We have a telecom there. If you want find there's an emergency work areas, stuff like that, you pick the phone and that phone does not leave the lab. So you don't bring your pen so that you don't pick up infections, diseases. And some of us have kids, children, wives, spouse, boyfriends, and girlfriends. But you don't pick these things from the lab and go and give to them free of charge. Are we communicating? So do not store personal belongings such as purse, cell phones, coffee mugs, food, or medication in technical work areas. Are we communicating? Now, next, all specimens from patients should be considered as what? Ineffective. All specimens should be collected in a well-constructed container with secured lid to prevent leakage during transport. Care should be taken when collecting each specimen to avoid what? Contaminations. And for contaminating the outside of the container of the laboratory form accompanying the specimen. So sample comes in with a form. You have to take care in such a way that the sample does not spill into the form and mess it up. If there's a potential for actual contamination of the container should be used. You can bag it, you can change the form if you have such. All personnel processing specimens should wear gloves. Some of us are guilty of this. You just use your hand. Say dirty does not kill. See, safety precaution. Please take note of this. It's not a function. It's not the presence of fear. Oh, you are safe. It's a presence of being safe. It's a function of quality and safety conscious. So when we do those safety, not because we are afraid. Yes, we need to be afraid of them because these things are potential hazardous. So treat every sample as hazard, potentially hazard. All person processing specimen should wear gloves. You don't search out samples with your bare hands. I'm going to wash it. It's not just one sample. No, 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 no. It's a non-conformity. It's against good laboratory what practice. Are we communicating? Now, it's wanted to know that I've said it, facial barrier protection should be used if splashes or sprays can occur. There are some levels of stool sample you have to you have to use some of all these things that you don't. Have you ever opened a sample, a stool sample, yet it's like something that is fermented? Okay, especially when it's overfilled. Now, in continuation of the good laboratory practice, we said mechanical pipetting device should be used for manipulating all liquid in the laboratory. Mouth pipetting must not be done. I guess we have gone over this area. We are no longer in this area. To use pipette or other mechanical device. To prevent injury, needles and syringe should be Use with caution. When the needles and syringe are finished, they should be capped. And there's a way you cap. Some people don't even know how to cap when you're using needles and syringe. Needles should not be recapped, purposely bent, broken by hand. Removed from a disposable syringe or otherwise manipulated. Be extremely conscious when handling sharp objects, including needles, scalpels, broken glass. If possible, all sharp objects should be handled with mechanical device or one-handed techniques like forceps or a mechanical device to remove those things. Now, we're just saying this in principles. There are procedures for it you can use to achieve it. After they are used, all sharps should be placed in a clearly labeled, punctured resistant container for transportation to disposable work sites. Sharp containers should be placed as close to the work site as practical. Sharp container, so you don't need to carry sharp and go to the next place or go to a distance. It should be close. In fact, you don't even need to move from where you are using it to prevent overfilling and resultant accident scheme. So there's a mark at the sharp container that it should not exceed here. Don't fill it as if you are loading a sack. The recommendation is that it should be 3/4 fill, 3/4 fill. Sharp objects should be placed immediately in punctured resistant container, and those containers should be discarded properly when they are 3/4 full. Are we communicating? Yeah. So in part of our good laboratory practice also include all laboratory work surface, including countertops should be decontaminated with appropriate chemical germicide after a spill. Before the work, you decontaminate. When there is a spill, you should also decontaminate. Don't leave it for cleaners. Some of us we have spill, we say go and call cleaners. If especially the cleaners are not trained safety things, some of them they will use mop, use rag and mop it and take it to go and mop clean areas. That's why part of the requirement of clinical laboratory is that your cleaners should be trained. So when this happens, there are procedures for handling it. All this is under safety management. But we are saying the principle is that before your daily work, you should decontaminate your surfaces. When there's a spill, you should handle it according to the safety procedures. Are we communicating? Now, scientific equipment that has been contaminated should be decontaminated. When you have any scientific equipment that has been contaminated, there's a spillage, that equipment should be decontaminated and cleaned before being repaired in the laboratory or transported to the manufacturer. So when we want to, for the biomedical engineer, before they do any maintenance on any equipment, one of the things they do, which would be a part of what they are, this is the decontamination. They decontaminate the equipment, do the repair, and decontaminate. Are we communicating? Yes. So as scientists, as good part of the good clinical laboratory practice, biomedical engineer, whoever that, even if you are the one that is handling it, that is the procedure. And you need to state what the contaminant, what the contaminated, and the what cleaning solution you are using. You have to state that. Okay, thank you. Hope it's getting interesting. Okay, part of the good clinical laboratory practice, the hands and other skin surfaces must be washed immediately and thoroughly. If contact with an infectious agent occur, hand must be washed immediately after gloves are removed and after completing a laboratory activities. Please underline that. Once you remove your glove, you don't say, "Oh, I was on glove." No, you wash your hand, and after you perform the lab activity, you wash your hands. If we go back to hand washing, it's what we call hand washing. Uh, a lot of this, we are going to reduce a lot of disease burden in the community and also within us. Okay, so to minimize the need of emergency mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, mouthpieces, resuscitation bags, and other ventilation devices should be available for use in areas where they need to resuscitation or something like that is predictable. Please note. Health workers who have exhaustive lesion or weeping dermatitis skin should refrain from working with infectious agents. You have a cut. Now you use something that will use to cover it. Laboratory shoes should be comfortable and should cover the entire front of the feet. So you don't wear open slippers, open palm. No, you should. In fact, they recommended that at least the front of your feet should be well covered. Are we communicating? Okay. I hope this is getting more interesting. So, adherence to general lab safety procedures such as wearing of double gloves and removing gloves before removing them from the biosafety cabinet. There are procedures for wearing gloves and removing gloves. If you don't know, it's part of safety management. You can learn that. Like, there's a way you remove gloves. You don't just, some of us don't even know how to. In the process of us removing gloves, can end up contaminating ourselves. You can watch videos on it. You can take training on how to remove gloves, just like we have dolphin and dunning. Setting up, cleaning out, and properly use of our safety cabinet, bringing materials into and out of the biosafety cabinet, performing the essential procedures required for most protocols, such as centrifugation, inoculation, and incubating, disposing of waste. So, part of the good clinical laboratory practice is having waste segregation. You want a good waste segregation: the black, the blue, the yellow, and the red, all those waste segregation. So you don't put where you put paper waste, you don't go and put it in hazardous waste. Following emergency procedures, especially what to do in the event of a spill, particular emphasis must be placed on reporting of the spill accident, no matter how minor the incident may be. So part of the good clinical laboratory practice expect us to do the things we are sharing with you. Thank you. And in continuation, by recognizing this standard and the minimum requirement for optimal laboratory operations, the expectation is that good clinical laboratory practice compliance will ensure that consistent, reproducible, auditable, and reliable laboratory results from the clinical trials or from the routine lab practices. The most appropriate way to ensure compliance with the GCLP guidelines is to audit the lab. So if you audit the lab, you ought to know that all these things have is put in place. It's put in place for us to be able to have a better understanding on what we are doing. So it's interesting from the pre-analytical to the post-analytical to the analytical aspect, all the things that need to be put in place in principles is what is known as the good clinical laboratory practice or the good laboratory work practice. Now, to have a better understanding on how to get them done, you must understand what the laboratory operations, you must understand laboratory quality management system, you must understand ISO 15189. And for you to be able to be an audit, to audit, or to you have to be trained. You have to be trained in all these things I'm telling you about, and you also have to have the auditing scheme and be trained as an auditor and also be certified, either as internal auditor or an external auditor, to be able to audit the laboratory. All these and many more we provide at Pegishaw Consultancy, both to individual and also to organization, also to group of concerned persons. Please just give me a minute. We'll continue.